Good job today, man. One at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say. On three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday on a Wednesday with my good friend Jet Central, a Jets practice off day, which is even more exciting because we can recap the last week and a half, which is awesome. Bro, how you been, man? How you doing down there in sunny Florida?
Good, man. Good. It's hot, but dude, football's back, man. We were talking about it earlier on today, man. Hall of Fame game freaking tomorrow. I can't even believe it, dude. Yeah, ball's back.
And there is so much to cover. I've been waiting for this all day because there's so much to cover, from the coach to the practices to the players to competition. But where I want to start is with the coach, dude, because he had all these bold press conferences coming in the training camp. Be like, all right, what is his blueprint? What is his vision on the field? How does he handle his players? How does he handle the practice? What is this whole accountability? What is this culture? And to me, I'm telling you right, dude, I love all the approaches, but just start with the practice, a physical practice, dude, where in the eyes of some, there's some risk associated with this, where it's like, okay, listen, you can be physical, but that's a chance of injuries now. How do you like this physical approach as opposed to years past?
Dude, I don't mind it, especially if you take a look at, where the Jets have struggled with. Tackling is one issue. Penalties has been another issue. And by the Jets, by Aaron Glenn, initiating things or coming up with ways to try to, solve both issues at the same time of doing that, two birds with one stone, awesome. But we're also creating discipline and also accountability, which is another major area where the Jets, quite frankly, have struggled over the last 3.5, 4 years. So I'm loving what I'm seeing. Granted, we haven't really faced much adversity. So, when the season gets going, we'll see how, the players respond off of like a losing streak, or if someone does go down, how does the team, respond, right? What is the bounce back, if at all? But until that point, man, I got to be honest, as a fan, I'm loving every single thing I've seen and heard so far.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure he's inheriting a dysfunctional team that all they know is losing. So your culture is going to be the standard you set day one. And he set a very high standard, accountability, discipline, hard work, physical, nasty. And you start off with, we talked about this like last week, with penalties, referees in practice. Seems like normal for most people. For the Jets, it wasn't. You're doing that. But then the commitment to tackling. Listen, the best way to learn how to tackle is to actually tackle. Be physical. Practice what you preach. Do it now so you can do it then. And what I like the most is the players are embracing it, dude. To a man, they love it. They love the intensity. They love the competition. Like Garrett Wilson's press conference yesterday was phenomenal. He's like, every drill matters because I don't want to lose this drill. I want to be better. And if he does screw up, Aaron Glenn's telling him, listen, bro, this has got to be better. Like there is that attention to detail. And I guess I've been harsh on Saleh's staff, and you know that. I'm not a big fan. But, dude, the attention to detail wasn't us just blowing smoke in the air. The players are saying this.
Yeah.
ADT, Brees, everybody's saying the attention to detail is different. I'm being held accountable for everything I have to do on every play. There's no plays off. There's no days off. That's the standard. And they know that going in, day in and day out. I have to play like this or my coach is going to be in my ear. Bro, that's a breath of fresh air. And again, it doesn't guarantee victories on July 30th, but that transitioning from where they were to where they want to go is huge, man.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, to piggyback off of that point, you almost say, I mean, I want to say you say it every stream. It's good play or great players want to be coached hard.
True.
They want to be in an environment where they're like, hey, am I actually getting better? Are the guys that are coaching me are the guys that, I'm required to listen to, putting me in positions to have success? Do they, envision a successful future for me as a player, whether it's, what it could just in a bunch of different ways, physically, mentally, learning the game. Is the game slowing down? Scheme fit wise, is the coaching staff, are these guys really trying to truly figure out ways to get me the football? And I think, that obviously is the case on the offensive side of the football. With Garrett, man, with Brees, with Braylon, Josh Reynolds, man, he's emerging. Mason Taylor's another guy, man, that's, I'm sure you've seen the reports. He's getting in the end zone. It seems like him and Justin are kind of creating that chemistry, which is awesome. But yeah, dude, I'm again loving what I'm hearing so far. It's basically everything that we kind of talked about in January that this team needed, like back when we were still searching for a head coach. I think that's why a lot of Jets fans were happy with this hire. That's why a lot of Jets fans wanted Mike Vrabel as well. Like who's a tough, old school, physical coach that would come in, create a culture, bring accountability, bring discipline, and get players to buy in. Aaron Glenn is doing that pretty much to a T. Again, how does that translate into the regular season? I don't know, but I mean, right now, dude, through this point, like to me, it's been an A+. Outside the whole Justin Fields toe injury, but even that had a silver lining to it, which is awesome. So,
and the other thing to add on to that is, we talked about him being a CEO type head coach, and we thought the Jets needed that. We need a guy that's hands on, dude. Aaron Glenn is in every facet of the team: position drills, offense, defense, special teams. And when you ask him a question about a player, doesn't matter who the player is, he'll give you a detailed answer what they did and what they did wrong. A returner, this, that, like you used to be like, I got to watch the tape. I got to figure. No, he knows. He knows what the player's strengths are, what the weaknesses are. And like, I've been so fascinated by the press conferences with the players and how they're talking about this. So listen, he's intense. He's very fair. And it's a lot of open communication. We could talk to him about anything and we can figure it out. And he's like, he knows what my strengths are, but he wants to know what my weaknesses are so I can get better. The whole Will McDonald thing, saying like Will McDonald's known for his speed and his spins. Now he's adding power to his game. Like the power has always been there. They haven't been using it. So it's like, dude, all these different examples for a young, impressionable team that's trying to find their way. It seems like they have a very strong leader in the locker room, and it's not the players, it's the coach. They're looking up to him. And then the other facet of this is all the former players on the coaching staff, especially the head coach, where he talks, listen, man, I've been there. I've been through training camp in the hot hell heat because he was in New Jersey. He was in New York. He played here before. I know the dog days of summer. I know, the physicality of all this stuff. So they can relate to him. And it seems like his message is getting through. So for me, the early start of training camp is exciting. Like you said, no adversity yet. They dodged the bullet with Justin Fields getting hurt. But this team is buying in 1,000%. And they're embracing this new mindset because it seems like they finally have like a leadership or direction that they haven't had in a couple of years.
Yeah, man. Aaron Glenn just feels like the right guy to spearhead this whole culture change. Yep. I don't know how I would have felt with Arthur Smith, to be honest. I don't know how you throw out different guys, some of the names that the Jets were interested in. Matt Nagy's another one. These guys might excel or have some good bring some strengths to an organization, have some positives for sure. That's why these guys are being interviewed in the first place. But when you talk about like what the Jets need, like what's going to, hit the spot, if you will, exactly what Aaron Glenn has talked about and done is, I feel like, perfect for, for the Jets because, all these different teams need something different, for example, if the Saints needed something different compared to the Bears, right? And the Bears need something different than the Patriots, right? So all these different teams have like their specific list of maybe areas of concern or areas that need to be solved one way or another with the new regime coming in. And again, I think that's why a lot of Jets fans like Oscar, Lauren, like I want to say the majority of Jets fans were thrilled with the AG hire because you're watching these games last season and it's just like issue after issue after issue. Who's the best person to solve this group of issues that the Jets are constantly dealing with? It's Aaron Glenn or Mike Vrabel, and the Jets landed one of those guys. So yeah, man, again, loving everything I'm hearing.
And you get the sense that there's going to be, other than accountability, there'll be changes. And I think that it's going to be a team that's not going to get pushed around. Like, I think there's a lot of pride. I think it sounds weird, but I think a lot of pride returns to the locker room where it's like, listen, like this coach believes in us. He believes in this team. We're all in this together. As we're not like a bunch of individuals with a superstar quarterback and this guy and that guy. Like we're all united together. A young team that's just buying in. And I think the other facet of this is Justin Fields, who it seems like he has the right personality for this team. Hardworking, he's kind of soft-spoken, but hardworking, just all about just getting better, rallying his teammates, attention to detail. That kind of blends in with Aaron Glenn's mantra too, where it's like, there's no distractions, man. He got hurt. He came back immediately, which is great. but it's like he just seems like he's just the right fit, the right time for this team where his skill set can actually match what they're looking for.
It seems pretty like, how should I say this? I guess maybe every person involved with this organization, offensive players, offensive coaches, special teams guys, defensive play, everyone, they all want to get better. It's one thing to, get a little bit better. It's one thing to roll out in practice, but granted, I've never been to a Jets training camp practice, especially, I mean, there's been, I mean, you've talked a lot about it, right? The solid practices are supposedly a lot different than how Aaron Glenn is doing things. The physicality's ramped up and everything, but I don't know. It just feels like every single rep, every single player, every play, every day, it's just like guys are out there really, really competing. They don't want to lose. And if they do lose, they're actually being coached up on it. And, I don't want to make it sound like Saleh had no clue what he was doing, because we did see some good things from Saleh throughout his time with the Jets. Like, he wasn't absolutely god awful as a head coach, but it just feels professional how the Jets are doing it. It feels like the vision is clear, and we also have a roadmap on how to get to where we want to be, which I think is really important. One thing I think is kind of an underrated maybe storyline of this whole Aaron Glenn takeover with the Jets is, and of course we talked a lot about it when he was first hired, but now, right? The coaches that he's worked with, the coaches that he's been around, the Bill Parcells, the Sean Paytons, all these different guys throughout the years, the Dan Campbells, the Ben Johnsons, right? Like, when it comes to an like organizational management, I think Glenn has like 100% has an edge over like just a typical first year head coach.
I agree.
Someone who's stepping in for the first time. Think of a Robert Saleh, think of like a Todd Bowles when he took over. Just like the little things, like how to schedule things, how to go about a practice, when to do certain things, when to scale it back, when to whip out like a physical drill, like what we've seen over the past couple of practices here. So I'm interested to see how that translates into the regular season. Just maybe like, how does Aaron Glenn handle game planning, preparing for like a Thursday night game, or what's the team preparation going to look like ahead of the London game? Are we going to be ahead of the curve in that department, or are we going to be, head on a swivel, kind of confused, and we're just grasping at straws, hoping that our plan of attack works? I just kind of feel very comfortable, and there is a sense of like relief from my standpoint when I'm just looking at, okay, you know what, the Jets are in good hands as far as overall knowledge of the game and everything that goes into the performance on Sundays.
Yeah, and my thing to keep an eye on now is like one thing with Bill Parcells, he always had a pulse of his team. He knows when things are getting too physical and the team is getting tired or banged up, you pull it back a little bit. You know what? Today's supposed to be pads. We're not going to do pads. Like, you have to have a pulse to your team and getting like, all right, am I pushing him too much where injuries are a liability, or it's a sloppy practice because everybody's tired and beaten up? And there's only so many padded practice you can do anyway. But that's the one thing I'm curious how he handles going forward, where he could read, or if he has guys in the locker room say, listen, coach, we want to work hard, but this is getting to be, we're on the brink now where this isn't quality, quality practice anymore. But now going into the players a little bit, Justin Fields, he get the toe injury. You're like, oh my God, everybody started panicking. He's back in practice. All is fine. Him and Tyrod Taylor are seeming a good 1-2 punch right now to roll out this offense. They, versatile skill sets. They could run, they could throw. You almost have like, it's gonna sound weird. When Justin Fields got hurt, I wasn't really panicking. I'm like, all right, like Tyrod's still here. It's not like Adrian Martinez is gonna be the quarterback. Like, what is your thoughts on Fields so far? Because I think he's handled everything well. The one thing I liked the most about yesterday was they talked about the practice. For the most part, they were off. Offense wasn't good. They rallied in a later practice, but he said, you know what? We've got to start faster. Like, he's not scared to hold himself accountable and say, listen, that wasn't good enough. I understand that. I've got to be better. No fluff, no nonsense, no no football cliches. No, it wasn't good enough. I have to be better. And we understand that. We got to start faster. Like, he took on that responsibility for himself, which is a good sign of a good leader, dude, because the last thing you want is your quarterback blaming everybody else, which we may have seen in the past. It's just like, no, I got it. I understand, but it's also early. And he kind of talks to the fact that it's practice, it's training camp. We're here to make mistakes because that's how we learn. You're not going to have a perfect practice in training camp because you're doing something wrong. You take your chances, you learn, you find out what your receivers can't handle, what your offensive line can and can't do. That's how you work out all your clicks now, because then when the season starts, you're better off. But what are your thoughts on Fields so far?
It's Amazing, dude. I understand he's not Lamar, he's not whatever, Pat Mahomes, but dude, like he so far from the off the field, the locker room stuff, the press conferences, he's like the anti-Rodgers, dude. Like it seems like everyone loves him. He doesn't point the finger. He almost like and look, again, it's not regular. I don't want to throw tons of flowers his way and make it sound like he's this amazing guy, an amazing quarterback and everything. It's we're literally still in July here, so things can definitely change. But just everything that you hear from Bears fans, everything that you hear from Aaron Glenn, Tanner Engstrom, Justin himself, it's like the prototypical quarterback response, right? Like I love, like, anytime Fields gets brought up, it's just positivity.
Yep.
It's Garrett Wilson talking about it, Brees Hall talking about it. Like it's flat out awesome. One interesting kind of storyline that directly impacts Justin Fields here is the whole Josh Reynolds kind of separating himself from the rest of the pack when it comes to like the wide receiver 2 position. Supposedly, according to reporters, Allen Lazard is starting to slip down a little bit. Tyler Johnson has made a couple plays to my knowledge. Arian Smith, I mean, obviously that's a big job or a big, ask of a mid-round pick to come in and just be like, all right, you're our wide receiver 2 coming in as a 4th rounder. Bit of a, a stretch to put that on a kid like that. Corley up and down, but what do you kind of make of this whole, because Josh Reynolds has been labeled as like a great teammate and a good leader throughout the course of his career. He knows Glenn, he knows Muji, he knows Tanner Engstrand, he knows the offense, Steve Hyde, all these coaches that came in from Detroit. What do you kind of make of the Fields, Josh Reynolds, QB to wide receiver 2 connection early here, July 30th in camp?
I think it's a good sign that's establishing this early. And the one thing that you hear all the young receivers say is Josh Reynolds is always pointing out how to improve, how to be a better route runner, talking about the offense, the attention to detail on offense. So it's like, all right, you have Garrett, who's your superstar, who's still young though. Guys, he's still learning his way. He's great, but he's still learning. Josh Reynolds is that presence where it's like, all right, like this is what we need to do. That adult, not saying adult room, like it's that veteran in the locker room, the kind of rally guys. But identifying number 2 is a good thing too, because we were wondering who it was. Like, who is it going to be? It's going to be committee, platoon. How are we going to handle this? And it's kind of, you start like, okay, what's his role? Now we kind of understand it. We understand what Garrett Wilson's role is, and then you try to figure out what 3, 4, or 5 is. But this is the good thing to happen, man, because we talked about this. Going into training camp is, do they have to make a trade? Do they have to go find somebody else? Like,
right.
Another, like, who's at number 2? Because my cynical fear was, we're one Garrett Wilson injury away from being in trouble. We don't want Garrett to go down. I'm like, oh, who the hell's who's our next guy to step up? If Josh Reynolds is becoming that strong 2A or that guy or 1B, whatever it is, that's a big lift for this team, dude. And that's what you really need, because you want Justin Fields to be comfortable. Drop back and throw the ball, and the guy's going to be where he's supposed to be. Not drop back, throw the ball, and the guys are looking around. Like that reliable route runner is pivotal for Justin Fields right now.
Yeah, and I think, and this is something that we talked a lot about before training camp kicked off. It was, of course, who's going to be the wide receiver 2 when it's all said and done, but more importantly, can someone pull away from the pack where it's like, hey, you know what? He's showing, who of course, at the time, we didn't know who it was, but can Tyler Johnson, can Lazard, can, whoever, Reynolds, can they step in? Can they step on the practice field, make plays, and prove, hey, I am the wide receiver 2? Or is it going to be a situation where Glenn, is getting ready for the start of the regular season and is like, you know what? We have this crop of players. We don't really feel good about any of them. I guess we'll throw him out there for the starting lineup. It doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like Reynolds is actually earning the gig as opposed to him just getting it by default.
And I also think that the preseason games will be very important for this team, where these young guys are going to have to earn their roster spot and their playing time. You're talking about Gibson and Corley and all these guys like Brandon Smith, or these one more guy with Pritchett. All these others, all these players out there. It's like, oh, you look great in t-shirt and shorts, great. You're looking good in pads against your own teammates. But I think in order to earn that true starting spot, you got to show it on game day to Aaron Glenn. I think he's kind of old school like that. Like, listen, when the lights come on, show me what you got. Like, so this is for the wide receiver group. I think this can be really, really interesting, man, because they have some talent. Whether they make more moves going, as the preseason plays out, we'll see. But it gets interesting, man. It does. It's like you want to get excited because you could kind of see a vision now as it slowly kind of, all right, we saw Reynolds, we got Garrett Wilson, If you want to talk tight ends here, where you have Mason Taylor is, coming on as a rookie, that's good. After him, not so sure because Ruckert's still being Rucker, and Stone Smart, you haven't heard a damn thing about him, which not exactly ideal early on in camp.
Yeah, I think theoretically the Jets can go out and sign someone tonight. Like Noah Fant out there. There's a couple blocking tight ends out there. We do have Beck on the roster, and he's more so that blocking fullback kind of. You can move him around a little bit. So I'm actually interested to see, his actual role when the regular season comes around. But until then, if you're just looking straight up names on paper, we're thin. But hey, if the first preseason game comes rolling around and Jeremy Ruckert has, 4 catches for 50 yards, I think just as a fan, just seeing something as simple as that, even if you don't even watch the game, just looking down at like the ESPN stats after, or even like Stone Smart, 3 catches, 2 small ones, but a big one, three catches, 60 yards or something like that. You're like, whoa, okay, maybe there is something here. Not saying he's a top 5 guy in football, but can he actually be, a gear in the system and not be a flat out liability? But until then, we're just kind of left questioning. It's just up for interpretation. We just got to kind of have to take the reporter's word for it when it comes to tight end. But one question I actually had for you, I was thinking about this when the Jets initially started going like full go at practice, because if they're starting this early, and we know the Jets injury history, no point to even go down the rabbit hole of, Becton and Rod, all these different guys that have gotten hurt throughout the years. Because the physicality it's not going to ease up as the regular season gets closer. It's either going to stay the same or ramp up even more. That would be my guess. What was kind of, and yeah, I think, based off of what you were saying before, like you like the physicality, you like that old school type of approach, but is it, or could it maybe be overkill where we're weeks into this thing and it's summer, it's hot, these guys are hitting every single day. It sounds good now in late July, but late August, like in between the second and third preseason game, are guys going to be worn out, you think?
That was what I was trying to talk about before. It's like Parcells always knew when to scale back. Like, listen, this team has been training their asses off. They're playing hard. They're playing physical, playing smart. We got to scale it back now, because now it's like we know that we can tackle. We know we're physical. We've set our edge. We've set our standard. Now our goal is to get ready for week 1, where we're not going to beat each other up, where we're walking in battered and bruised. So that's a fine line he's got to work. I think right now it's about the culture and the standard. Like, let them know exactly what this game is all about, what your identities can be going forward, and how you want to handle yourself. And as it's established, you slowly but surely reel it back in a little bit. So that's kind of what I think, at least. But it's a fair question, dude. That's the only challenge from right now, I think.
Yeah, because just admittedly speaking, you take a look at the Lions situation this year, last year, they've dealt with a ton of injuries. Not, of course, just looking at, Glenn's coming from the Lions. Glenn's the reason behind all these injuries. Obviously not, but it is interesting that one of the most physical teams in football in the Detroit Lions, a team that just plays fast, they play hard, lots of speed, lots of strength. No one shying away from contact or anything like that. They practice hard. If that's the approach being implemented with the Jets, and we've already been labeled as this injury-prone team, throw on top of what we're playing on this turf, which everyone hates. The pessimistic side of me is just like, God, I hope this doesn't come back to bite us, where maybe someone's just worn down and it's the end of the end of the practice session, or maybe it's the last drive on 11 on 11s, whatever the case may be, and someone just tries to push it a little too hard, or they hit a little too hard, and it's kind of breaking down before the season even starts.
It's a legit concern, but also in the years past, you wonder if their lack of being physical in practice, and maybe not the attention to detail, was part of their injuries as well, or a poor,
good point.
Poor, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're hearing about these guys saying how things are so physical, more intense, if you have that intensity and physicality all the time, your body gets used to it. If you're only doing it every 4th day or whatever else, it's kind of like, you're kind of shaken up. It's like, like I train fighters, dude. If you're always doing soft drills, you're not used to the physicality of the sport. When you go hard, everybody's like, oh man, they're all like, once your body's used to it, it doesn't phase you at all. So It could be that, like K-Dude said, strength conditioning. It could be the coaches. The Jets change, strength coaches. They change conditioning, nutrition. So it's a variety of things. Speaking about the one thing about physicality, what was that? One question up here? I did move, Chris. The one thing, the physicality with the offensive line is really interesting because you have two very young bookend tackles, Olu and Membu, and they're learning trial by fire right now because, first of all, you have a very aggressive defense, but you have, Will McDonald doing his thing, Quinnen Williams. To me, I think this is awesome because it's one thing to do drills with T-shirt and shorts, but they talked about, like, when the pads came on, Membu was like, he did all right. Like, he held his own, especially if it's a guy like Will McDonald. So that, I think, is also a benefit when you have these physical practices for these young tackles.
Yeah, man, it kind of goes like you can make the same argument with like Gardner versus Garrett. Like the two sides are working, getting better, but you just kind of get this cherry on top because you're literally going against some of the best competition in the league, not just on the team, in the league. So, like I remember, listening to like wide receivers talk going up against Revis in training camp practices. It's like no joke, like it's impossible. But all these guys like would slowly but surely get a little bit better over time, just for the simple fact of, hey, we're going up against Revis, not someone else, like a typical average corner. So yeah, man, I love it. I absolutely love the battle between McDonald and Membu. I think that's so cool. Yeah, I like naturally I'm a defensive first guy, but I think I'm more team Membu right now. Like I just get juiced up when I see the reporter say like, oh, Membu, held his own against McDonald, or he just completely stonewalled him. Like that fires me up because we haven't seen Membu at the NFL level. We know that McDonald can come in and snag 8-9 sacks. I feel pretty good about that. And I also love his trajectory of getting better as a player, with this staff and everything. Because, and also, Steve Wilkes has been able to develop some pretty solid pass rushers as well, or has, if you go back to Carolina and whatnot, he's worked with some pretty impressive guys. He's been around Myles Garrett in Cleveland. He's been around Nick Bosa and all these, all the guys that the 49ers had that season. So he knows a thing or two about developing pass rushers, not, of course, giving Wilkes all the credit there, but again, it's kind of that season where you have a scheme change, a coach change, but also you're entering year 3 as, like an NFL pro, as a first round pick. And by year 3, the game should be more, I would say, manageable. You shouldn't really have many or as many questions as you did as a rookie. And I understand that defensive end is a lot different than quarterback or something like that, or even like a linebacker, but I just feel like now is the time. The environment feels right for a Will McDonald takeoff. I'm not saying 14 sacks or anything crazy, but I would say minimum 9. And that's a pretty good position to be in. If you're like, what, the floor is probably 9 sacks for someone. Like that's pretty damn good. High end, I would not be surprised to see 11-12, dude, from Will McDonald. And sorry, go ahead.
No, and if he could set the edge and be a well-rounded player, not only be a pass rusher, but could be a 3-down player, can stop the run, can be like that dominant force that can be, the perfect guy to, on the other side of Jermaine Johnson, but just be more just dominant, be disruptive, not just like a one-trick pony. Like, all right, you can make plays first, second, third down, could be a closer on 4th down, like bring that all to the table. Going back to offense, I wanted to ask you a question about this because I like to read into what coaches say, and I like to maybe not instigate, but kind of see what the Jets are doing a little bit here. I have this weird feeling Braylon Allen's going to be the guy, dude. I really do, because when the way you hear Aaron Glenn gush about what he talked, like he's physical, he's this. I wish I could have 22 of Braylon Allen's on my team. He matches that physicality, that nastiness, that like he matches what Aaron Glenn exactly wants as a player, right? So you add that plus his speed, plus his athletic ability. He can catch the ball in the backfield. Now, I'm not discounting Brees, but I think we both agree that he's probably not going to be here next year. I think he had some fumbles earlier on in the week where it's like, all right, Brees could be a good pass catcher out of the backfield. But I just get the feeling that Braylon Allen's going to get plenty of opportunity here to dominate in a game or make an impact on a game.
Yeah, I could easily see some sort of thunder and lightning split, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. I think a totally fair projection for Braylon Allen would be 800 rushing yards.
I agree.
Where he's not taking the bulk of the snaps, but he is a contributor a lot more than last season. I mean, I felt like literally every time he was out on the field last year, I was just like, this guy can play. Why is he coming out? Isaiah Davis too. I'm like, man, this guy, for coming in from South Dakota State, like this guy's capable of actually being a playmaking contributor. So it's a great problem to have, right? To have multiple backs that you feel really good about.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because you can see what he brings to the table. And you talked about it last year, like when we do previews last year, like put Brees and Brown in the backfield at the same time. It would drive defenses crazy, but actually do that, and then you can see what he has. But I think he's going to have a huge impact. You have Isaiah Davis too, like I said, speedy guy, has a lot of explosiveness, and you assume with much better line play and physical play, these guys should have a field day. And then you have your play action pass to the wide receivers. The overall,
real quick, just to add on to it, and Fields' mobility.
Exactly. So now, overall, what has been your feedback on all the players how to discuss this offense? Because they seem, obviously, you're always going to compliment your coach, right? They're, oh, my coach is great, I love it. But they're like, the offense makes sense. The scheme makes sense. The scheme is actually maximizing our potential. We actually could communicate much easier. Like all like the little subtle shots I take at the former staff cracks you up because we saw it. Like you saw how many times I showed the team look dazed, confused, didn't know what the hell they're doing. The blocking schemes were a mess. The routes were a mess. You had 3 receivers running in the same friggin' area. It was ridiculous. And you hear the players talk from like Garrett to who else was it? John Simpson. A lot of these got AVT. They're talking about the offense, man. Like, yeah, this offense makes sense. Like, we can vibe with this because we understand our role in this offense. That was interesting to hear from the players.
Definitely, man. And funny story. So I was with a bunch of Bucs fans last night, and literally they were all saying we wanted Hackett, or guys, scratch that, not Hackett. They wanted Ingstrand to be their OC. They were like, oh, some guys wanted Nick Caley, some guys wanted Ingstrand. But they ultimately promoted this guy Grizzard, who they currently have. But I don't know. I just found it funny. I'm like, oh man, like someone outside of the Lions fan base and the Jets fan base talking highly of Tanner Ingstrand. Like, dude, like, yo, that's the guy that I wanted. And someone else was just like, oh, I wanted him too. I'm like, that's a really positive sign, because I know, the initial kind of reaction from a lot of people when he was first brought in was, who the hell is this guy? A first-year head coach plus a first-year OC?
That was me.
Yeah, me too, a little bit too, because it's like with these first-year guys, you never really know. It could be a Mike LaFleur. It could be, like you could have a complete, just like Ben Johnson, when he took over for Anthony Lynn, just someone like you could have the next great head coach sitting there as an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Like you just don't know until they actually, until the live bullets actually start flying here. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens. But as far as just the like flat out scheme is concerned, I'm pretty pumped because he's coming from one of the best offenses in football. And granted, they have a lot of things to allow that offense to be good, right? They have the quarterback, they had a top 5 offensive line, multiple running backs, multiple wide receivers, fantastic tight end room, plus a defense that was pretty damn good as well. So yeah, like the assumption is they're going to be pretty good, but how many times do we look at a team on paper and say, oh yeah, this is going to be good? You could talk about like the Jets last season, right? But I think at the end of the day, if the scheme makes sense, it makes sense. And I think, like, for me personally, the biggest maybe connection that I look at with Tanner Ingstrand is Jim Harbaugh, because that was really his first like big head coach that he was paired with. And Jim Harbaugh, just no matter where he goes, he wins. He turns around the program, he turns around the vibe, and he does it in an old school way, running. Not to say that his offensive system is like archaic or anything, but it's like a time-tested system. You see a lot of similar stuff, and then from there he just makes tweaks where it could be like a making the switch from like Alex Smith to Kaepernick.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's this, running quarterback, a lot of pistol looks, lots of read option, and you kind of feel like it came out of nowhere, but at the same time, like they're running it just so effortlessly. So yeah, I'm really excited for Tanner. I know there's going to be speed bumps along the way. I know there's going to be moments where it's a bad play call or a maybe a crap game plan,
Yeah.
and we lose because of it. But I think that you just got to roll with the punches when it comes to hiring these young guys.
Yeah, so we covered a lot of the offense. Now, defensively, it gets interesting because we have a lot of faith in the defense because you have Aaron Glenn, defensive-minded guy, Steve Wilkes, very experienced defensive coordinator, and they have a lot of talent. But there's a couple positions that were like, all right, when they made their moves, they're like, I'm not so sure about that. Starting with corner, with Stevens, got that big contract, coming off a down year with the Ravens. But it seems like Aaron Glenn, first of all, loves him. You can tell he loves him based on his abilities, where he's like, listen, he's playing well, but he's a lot of room to improve. But it seems like he's having a very good camp, and he's matching what Sauce can bring to the table in terms of like a very good, man corner, physical, hopefully gets more interceptions, but it seems like he's having a very good camp. And the other guy is Cisco, which I know you're really high on Cisco, where he's becoming that playmaker safety. So it's like your two free agent moves, Stevens and Cisco early on in this defense, obviously haven't played preseason, haven't done a joint practice yet, but they're making their impact where guys are looking like, all right, you know what? I see their role in this defense.
Dude, I'm literally trying to think of one player that we've heard something negative about. Maybe, I mean,
can I touch on that real quick?
Yeah.
I want to touch on it real quick. The one thing I like about Aaron Glenn is he's tough on his players, but he won't let the media say things that are incorrect about his players. Like the one thing that Rich Cimini went to talk to Aaron Glenn about Justin Fields, said, well, how far behind now is Justin now that he missed a day? He's like, why is he behind? He was in all the meetings. He's on the practice field. He's still on course. Like he won't let you say things that are wrong about your play or let you make assumptions about his players that's incorrect. And I love that. We're solid, like, oh, no. He's like, no, that's not true. Like you think he's struggling, but did you see this, and this? Like he's while he's hard-nosed and stubborn and kind of like, a tough guy, he has no problem giving his players respect in front of the media when it's due.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm more so talking about like for example, we've heard some negative stuff about Lazard, slipping down the depth chart and whatnot. We've heard, okay, the battle is still wide open at center between Josh Myers and Tippmann. No one's really pulling away there up to this point, as far as we know. But as far as like a defensive players or the defensive players are concerned, is there a corner that's constantly getting burned? Is there a safety that just has no clue where to go? Is there a pass rusher that's just being, going up against, like, he's just totally ineffective? Quincy and Jamie Sherwood, I feel like that those two guys have been the standout on defense, just with all these new responsibilities put on their plate. Having to rattle off plays, drop back in coverage, rush the passer, stop the run, covering running backs out of the flat. It's like think of like a Steve, like think of all the linebackers that Steve Wilkes has been a part of, dude. Fred Warner, Greenlaw, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, even like Cleveland Browns 2019, Joe Schobert was an awesome player.
Yep.
I know the Browns didn't have that much success that season, but just individually speaking, the linebackers for Steve Wilkes do well. They always seem to produce. Like very rarely do you see like Steve Wilkes led linebackers just suck. Yep. And Sherwood and Quincy, it's a big transition going from like the Sala system and the Ulbrich system, I guess, to this system where they're like asked to rush the quarterback a little bit more. So, I think that in and of itself is really cool that these guys are being asked to do more and they're responding well. But it just kind of, man, it just fires me up understanding that, okay, you know what, both guys are young, well, in the case of Sherwood, he's going to be here for 3 more years. Hopefully Quincy, same thing. But it feels like the middle of the defense, like if you're just top down, the middle of the defense from the 2 linebackers and then looking at Quinnen on the inside, like I love that just triangle.
That's yep.
And so, again, just trying to think of ones like Michael Carter is doing well, Cisco's doing well, Malachi Moore is turning heads.
That's what I want to talk to you about. The one guy we really haven't heard from is Tony Adams, right?
That's fair.
So, and that's where I'm like, all right, Glenn obviously loves Malachi Moore. Obviously, I mean, highly touted. He brings it all to the table from Alabama, like impact player, physical, leader, all that stuff. But now he's becoming a playmaker too, where it's like you have that Cisco Moore combo. It's like, all right, this is interesting. Where Tony Adams, had a role at the Jets last year. I thought he was a much better player than he is, unfortunately. And I was wondering maybe in Aaron Glenn's system, maybe he would flourish and go back to where he thought he could be as a player. But it seems like he hasn't, as of now, really emerged. It seems like more is emerging.
Yeah, which is awesome, man. I'm like, if you go back and you look at what he was doing at Alabama, bro, first team All SEC. He could play slot, he could play free safety, he could play strong safety. He's all around the D. He's like this chess piece guy, just like Brian Branch. And I know, like, what was it? I think it was the press conference post draft where Aaron Glenn was talking about Malachi Moore and how Brian Branch actually told Glenn about Moore, like, hey, keep an eye on this guy, which I thought was really cool. But yes, he's flourishing, he's making plays. I absolutely love to hear like when rookies are doing well, especially like the mid-round guys or even like the UDFAs. And even like to go down that route, Peyton Page, the D tackle from Clemson who we picked up, former 5-star guy, one of the best high school players in the country. Didn't really impact the Clemson Tiger defense really at all through the first 3-4 years there, until that final. He was kind of a special teams contributor until that final year, third team All ACC, but definitely looked the part, has athleticism, has good enough size, and he's just kind of been one of those guys where it's just like, hey, if you give him an opportunity and you get him in the right system and you get him with a good coaching staff that believes in his skill set, this is someone who just has a lot of room to grow as a player. Granted, low floor. It could work out. It could not work out. It's the reason why he was a UDFA, went undrafted here. But, to hear that he's actually out there making plays, going up against an offensive line, like an interior of an offensive line that's pretty damn good. I'm really encouraged by that.
Yeah, that's another guy you want to see in the preseason where it's like, or when the joint practices start, like you want to see what's his impact then against another team, or when you're against another, preseason games, like you want to see what's their impact then. Are you still making the plays? Or are you a training camp guy where you splash in practice and don't show up on game day?
It's funny you mentioned that. That was like Leonard Taylor last year. And like a couple years ago, Robbie Anderson. Like it wasn't really until those preseason games where we were looking, you're like, dude, this guy is scorching by corners. Like, who is this guy?
Exactly.
Leonard Taylor flashing, making plays, just getting in the backfield, getting a sack. Is like, dude, he flew off the line. So yeah, those preseason games, man, they're going to be freaking huge. I'm so fired up for these preseason games.
Yeah, and then just to go to special teams where the Jets, they had 2 young kickers, and I was nervous about that. I'm like, man, like this seems like a team that's going to be in a lot of competitive games, close games where it's going to come down to a field goal or a punt or a defensive play. And I'm like, the last thing you want, we saw just last year, is the kicker shanking the ball all over the place and losing games that you should be winning because he's just incompetent. And so 2 young place kickers, I'm like, oh, this is just like, we talked about it. It's putting a premium on coaching because it's kind of arrogant not having an all reliable guy there to help you out with kicks. Lo and behold, Nick Folk is here, man. The return of Nick Folk.
Yeah, dude. I love it. What was your initial takeaway?
I love it. I think it's great because if anything, he's a very consistent guy that can be an excellent mentor to your young kickers. And you know what you have in him, man. It's not like a panic. It's like reliable. To me, it's like, all right, you know what you're getting out of him. He should be very consistent. He's not going to cost you a game. He should just get you through until you find somebody stronger with probably a bigger leg. And, as you try to go younger going forward. I think it's smart, dude, at this point.
Yeah, last couple of years, he actually was really, really effective, man. I think he was 25 of 25 with extra points. And then he actually hit 60, 50 plus, or God, not 60, 650 plus yarders last year for Tennessee. 40 years old. I mean, the Jets have the money to pay him. And this kind of goes back to some of the free agent talks that we were kind of having like during like voluntary OTAs and whatnot. Like, hey, could we maybe upgrade a certain position? Jets are in a really, really good position with overall cap space. And at the time, I wasn't really thinking kicker. I was thinking like, D tackle, wide receiver, maybe safety potentially. Not kicker, but here we are where it's just like, okay, this late summer edition that on paper is, to be quite frank, and no disrespect to the young guys, but a huge upgrade for a couple $1 million. Like, sign me up for that.
Yeah, 100%, especially with this team where I think it's going to be a lot of 17-14 games, 20-17 games. A kicker is huge, and special teams is huge too, where punter to me is still that area where it's like, all right, still rookie here. They've already cut one. They still have one left, but it's like we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, as training camp plays out and you go into preseason, if you find your areas of concern on your roster, you got to pull the plug. You got to pull the plug and address it. The Jets did that with kicker. I wouldn't be surprised they do that with punter and they can start tinkering around other positions as well, because there are some holes. It's not a perfect team. You have a lot of exciting players, but you got to see, like, are they exciting or are they legitimate? And I think that's something you find out over the next like 2-3 weeks.
Well, the good thing too about punter is you can bring those guys in on the fly, and they're, they don't have to learn a system, take a month to really digest everything. Like, it's really just plug and play with these guys. So I was a bit kind of interested that or who we let go of Kai Kroger, I think it was.
Yep.
And Caden Davis. So one punter, one kicker.
Yep.
I was actually surprised that they didn't roll into the first preseason game with both kickers, with both punters. Just give them both a shot, because you never know who's going to like actually show up when the lights come on. But I think right now we only have one punter on the roster, if I'm not mistaken.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah, it should be interesting. Because if things don't go well in that first preseason game, not saying he has to be amazing, but yeah, like I could see him making a switch. Unfortunately, like that's just kind of how the business goes when it comes to like these the specialists.
So now overall, we went in the training camp with one mindset about this team with a lot of unknowns. We talked about it over and over. A lot of unknowns. Who's going to do what? What are they going to do? What's going to be their personality? Where's their leadership? What's their traits as a team? What do you think we've learned so far after how many practices? 7 practices. What do you think we've learned about this Jets team?
I think a couple things. The first is the culture building aspect is real with Aaron Glenn. And yeah, of course, it's all, whatever, sunshine and rainbows. There's no games being lost. There's no hard conversations being had. No one's jobs are on the line at this point outside of, the rest, like outside of like the roster cuts. I'm talking Aaron Glenn is not in danger of losing his job. Everything is totally fine from that standpoint, granted, but to hear all these different players just genuinely rave about the coaching staff, genuinely rave about the schemes, you got to get fired up as a fan. I mean, to me, like that is why you hire Aaron Glenn. That is why you get rid of Aaron Rodgers, right? Because you got to create an environment like the Ravens, like the Bills, like the Eagles, like the Chiefs, where it's just this, you like the Lions, right? Packers, you create a machine where it's just, you have players teaching younger players. You have coaches that are experienced and they really understand the game. It's just, it really feels like the Jets have turned the corner. Not trying to get ahead of myself, but it just feels like we have the right guys leading the team. Like Aaron Glenn is a guy who I want in my foxhole. Like 100%. Like he seems like he will back the players to the end, which I love. So I think, again, that's the first thing. The culture is real, or the culture that's being built is real. And then the second thing, I think for me, it really seems like the guys love Fields. And that's, I understand, because I mean, think about how many positive comments we heard about Zach. Like Zach's our guy, it's Zach's team, this and that. Garrett Wilson raving about Zach, Elijah Moore talking about Zach.
It seemed fake though.
Yeah, but at the time, it's like, it's
like
you're coming away from that as a fan.
We're going to argue now, because Zach Wilson's psyche was so he was so fragile. They had to constantly praise him.
At the end, I'm talking.
I think in the beginning too, dude, because they babied him the entire time, and the players I think felt obligated to say, we got to be nice to him, we got to do that, we got to keep his confidence, because if we're going to win, it's because of him. To me, I think a lot of that seemed fake, and it was generated by the coaching staff, by the organization. And this, I could be completely wrong. I don't hate Zach. I wanted him to succeed, but he didn't. And with Justin Fields, it seems genuine, dude, where they're like, this guy is a hard worker, man. He wants it bad, but it's like he wants it bad, but he's actually showing it. He's also showing you a lot of good things in practice where it's like, all right, like how many times you see players saying, like, this guy's he's threading the needle here. He's got a big time arm. He's making throws I didn't think he could make. And they're saying that, like, I didn't think he'd make that throw, and he can make it. Like Sauce said it. He's like, all right, he surprised me there. So it's like, I think the way he carries himself, his leadership, his like, he's not like an outspoken guy, but he's very collected player. I think players resonate to that more than Zach Wilson trying to be somebody that he wasn't. I think Fields could be, he's been in the league a couple of years already too. He has advantage of that. I just think they're apples and oranges, dude. I really do. I think it's just he's a much easier player to like than Zach was.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a one-to-one comparison. Mm-hmm. The point I was making was we've just heard players speak highly of the quarterback before the season gets going. I think Justin's leadership style though resonate because he's one of the guys, dude. Like he's not afraid
Exactly.
to go out and take a hit. He's not afraid to, whatever, get in the weight room and kick it with the players and stuff. Yeah, it just seems genuine. And I think people love genuine people. You know what I mean? Like if you're yourself and he's leading his own way, like Aaron Glenn always talks about, like players kind of respond to that. Guys want to be around it because like this guy's being himself. He's not trying to play a character. He's not trying to, do stuff for attention on social media. He's not trying to draw attention to himself and be the center of attention, just like last year. So, I think, again, dude, like that's why you make the change. That's why you hire Aaron Glenn, step one. And then, if you want to kind of continue that or continue to try to build the envisioned culture, I just didn't see how you could do that with Rodgers at the helm. Think about that, dude. Think about everything is the same, but Rodgers as the quarterback for this Jets team. It would feel weird.
It would be weird.
It would be like just two different, just strange. It's weird thing to kind of think about, but
it seems again, like Fields. Like I'm not saying Fields is better than he is. It feels like Fields is the right match for the Jets with his demeanor, with his style of football. He's physical. He's quiet. Like he's like you say, he's one of the guys, and it's perfect. And it's just like it just feels different with him, man. Where this team seems like they're united. They're all on the same page. It's them against the world. There's no attitudes, no egos. Everything's quiet. No social media nonsense. There's literally nothing on the Jets. Literally, there's no. What's the biggest story? Justin Fields got a toe injury, and that's literally been it. Nothing else going on with this team, which to me is welcome. Where it's like all the distractions are gone. It's about, listen, we know where we are. We know where we need to go. Let's work hard and get there, and that's it.
Yeah, 1,000%, dude. And I prefer it that way because
me too.
What are this? Like, have you heard one negative story about Philly?
Nope.
Or Buffalo outside, excluding injuries?
Yep.
Or Baltimore? Like, no, not really, man. Like, it just doesn't really come out of these organizations that are just well ran. I mean, you always have one-off incidents, but just from top to bottom, it just feels like the Jets have made an organizational shift, and it's not going to be perfect or anything, but it just, it's going to be a work in progress. But it's to me, it just feels comforting. It feels good, and I'm encouraged because another thing too, man. And we've talked a lot about this, and obviously Glenn played for the Jets, but it really feels like Muji and Glenn are like diehard fans of this football team. Like they were fans like us watching the games on Sunday, thinking like, why is this team being coached like that? Why are they doing this? Why are they practicing like that? Why is a story coming out like this? They've addressed all of the areas of weakness. They've talked about them all. They're self-aware to the situation that they're stepping into and not walking in saying like, oh my God, I'm a GM of a football team. Let's go. Hopefully this works. Aaron Glenn, hopefully this works. I could go coach pretty much anywhere I want. I have a million interviews. I wanted to come to New York. Like that's what he said. That's like, I don't know. I love it, man. I love it.
No, and that's the one thing. It's like you talked about this and you're so right. It's like they understand exactly what they inherited and they had a blueprint how to address it. So they're like, all right, we know we can't tackle. We're bad with penalties, all this. They had to address it. But to me, the one thing, this is going to sound like a weird comment, but it probably is a weird comment, but I really don't care. It seems like they're returning pride to the locker room where players are back being proud to be a member of the Jets. And they're they want to fight for their teammate. They want to fight for their team. Like, it's like that intensity that Aaron Glenn has. Like you can tell, you talk about this all the time, dude. Like he wanted this job. He loves, like he only gets choked up talking about it. Like, I can't believe I'm a coach of the Jets. This is my dream job. And it means so much to him. The players see it. Like he's been here. He knows what it's like. And like, it seems like that's all rubbing off on them. They're buying in. Like they want to win for each other. Like I think for the last couple of years, this team was divided, man. Too many personalities, too many distractions, TV shows, this, that, contracts, going to the Super Bowl, all this other BS. And now it's like they're kind of galvanized and they're kind of reflecting his mindset. They're talking his talk. Like they're kind of matching his energy. And that seems different. Again, I understand it's July 30th and, oh, you guys are being fanboys, all this other stuff. But it's not really the case. It's like you're seeing this young team kind of transform into a different team, literally before our eyes, the way they talk, the way they act, and hopefully now the way they play.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of when Rex Ryan stepped in.
It
And
sure does.
granted, when Rex stepped in, like the
really
team
does.
was built up. Like we had a lot of good players back then, but when Rex stepped in, he kind of made it like cool to be a Jet. Like
100%.
all these veterans across the league, like LT and Jason Taylor and uh who was it? Like Braylon Edwards coming in, Santonio Holmes coming in,
Yep.
like Bart Scott coming in. It's just like play like a Jet. Like it just felt
It meant
like
something.
the Jet. Yeah, it meant something. Like of course, you could play pride for yourself as a player, but also like, hey man, I want to be a part of the Jets. It feels like it's a fraternity over there, like a brotherhood.
Yep.
Everyone's kind of fighting and playing for each other, which is really cool. It's reminiscent to that. It didn't feel that way with Salah. It didn't feel that way with Gase. It didn't feel that way with Todd Bowles.
Nope.
But yeah, it's just, I'd like to kind of get back to that feeling.
No, and like it's about competition. It's about being tired of losing. It's being tired of being pushed around. Like these players are tired of losing. They're tired of being in this market. The fans hate them. The media hates them. The team's irrelevant. They're getting picked on all the time. Now it's like you're tired of being pushed around. Now it's your time to bounce back, and I love it. I think Glenn has the absolute right mindset for this. Your best friend has a question for us. Ian Tyson, will Brandon Smith, the wide receiver, make this team finally? He was my preseason superstar last year. Always liked him. I truly think he'd be a better player than Lazard.
I think the tricky thing is with Lazard. Let me actually just pull up so we can get the exact number, but I wonder what the guaranteed number for Lazard is, because
It's like $2 million bucks, isn't it? It's cheap. Isn't it guaranteed? Didn't they reduce his contract big time?
Yeah, they reduced. I don't know if it was by like a huge amount. That's what I'm trying to pull it up here, just so I have the exact number. But with Smith, like if you keep Lazard on the roster, you can put Smith on the practice squad.
Yep.
If you put Smith on the roster, Lazard's being cut. So if you're Muji, you're looking at it like, okay, the active rosters on the team, the practice squad is still the team.
Yep.
It's just a collection of guys. Now, granted, someone can go pluck Smith off the practice squad, but I think we're gonna have to wait and see into preseason. I mean, if Lazard is a non-factor against backups in the preseason, and Smith is making some plays here and there, I would have no problems with it. But of course, if you're talking about like those lower seeding wide receivers on the depth chart, now you start have to talk. You simply have to bring up special teams. Can you contribute there?
Lazard's
blocker.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, Lazard is a blocker too. Is probably a big asset to them right now.
Yeah. So, and to be fair, he does have experience and whatnot. And Glenn has, as much as we talk about Glenn coaching against Justin Fields, Glenn coaching against Josh Myers, he did coach against Lazard as well.
Yeah, I'm interested about Corley too and see what Corley does. He seems he had a couple big practices. So you're looking at the Lazard numbers. I thought they did a huge restructure with him, dude, where the money's not that bad anymore.
Yeah, they did do a huge for the season's $4.6 million. I just don't know how much guarantee money, because if the whole thing is guaranteed, it's okay. So he's an $8.3 million dead cap hit for 2025 if he is cut. So yeah, if you're Jared Muji, it's kind of like, okay, I could have both guys.
Yeah,
because what are the chances that Smith gets plucked from the practice squad unless he's dominant in preseason?
Unless he's a monster training camp and a monster preseason. So yeah, that's interesting. And like I said, like Corley's interesting. There's a lot of players, man. I cannot wait for the preseason. Like you want, like obviously the green and white scrimmages on Saturday, but I want to see preseason games against other teams to see what young players start making things interesting. Like AZ Thomas seems to be having a great camp.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that Aaron Glenn seems to be preaching, it's all about competition. You compete and you play at a high level, you have a chance to play more. And does a young guy start taking a position? Like we talked about Malachi Moore. Does he become a guy that can be a starter? So I'm fascinated to see how all this works out, man, because I think it's when you preach it, you got to actually do it. So if these players know that, they can earn a spot or earn more playing time by having a great preseason game or a great training camp. It brings out the best in you. So it's interesting, man. It says post June 1st, he's $3.9 million.
Post June 1st?
what it says.
Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I'm on Spot Track right now. And it just has the little cut logo. It doesn't give me the June option, but
Still, it's a decent.
it's still, I mean, you could, that's probably Nick Folk's contract. I haven't seen that, but Nick Folk probably got like 3-4 mil.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Lazard will be. And the other thing too is you probably keep Lazard now too because it's so early where you wait till the third preseason game in case, God forbid, Josh Reynolds goes down. You want that veteran guy still on the roster, even though he's questionable in his hands. It's, you know what I mean? You keep him till that point to have like an insurance policy.
And also too, you don't really see for the most part a team restructure a deal where the player takes less for the team to just kind of come back, undercut them, and just release them afterwards. It's kind of like, do me a solid with the restructure and I'll do you a solid. You can make the team type of thing. Not in every single case, but just, it's just, I mean, if the Jets were going to cut him, to me, that feels shady to, take or ask him to take less and then just to cut him anyway.
Do you guys think that Tyrod could potentially be just as good as, if not a little better than Fields? It's interesting because I think you can make an argument that Tyrod may be a better passer than Fields right now, and they're like where they are in their careers. But I don't know, like that's interesting because I had a feeling my biggest fear is Justin Fields got hurt for 2 or 3 weeks, and Tyrod started playing really well, and then we had the true quarterback competition. That hasn't been the case yet. But what do you think about Tyrod, man? Is there a chance that he could? I think it's Justin Fields' team. But do you think he could actually be better than Fields? I mean, that's a tough one.
I think he can maybe be more efficient through the air.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
I don't know if he presents the upside though. He definitely gives you a higher floor than Fields. Because I mean, if I say right now, okay, Tyrod Taylor rolls out there in a random game this season, whatever, week 3 against the Bucs. Can you envision him throwing 3 to 4 picks with 2 brutal sacks and the Jets don't score? Like, it's just hard to picture that. But with Fields, it's like we've seen some performances where he's like only completing like 9 passes.
Yeah.
And there's turnovers and stuff.
Yep.
And the offense is just stagnant. Now, of course, you have to go back a couple years, but Fields just feels more high ceiling, lower floor.
Yep. No, I agree.
Which is exactly kind of what you want too in your backup, to be that kind of high floor, safer option.
Who do you think will be the other starter next to Quincy and Jamie on the starting linebacker group?
So, to be honest, I actually don't really see a lot of situations where the Jets are just in like base 4-3 defense. But if I had to say McCray Ball, Mawaga, I feel like is just better off as a backup, backup like middle linebacker. Because with the weak side linebacker, you want someone who can fly in space, someone who's not, thin or skinny, but someone who's maybe a little bit who can just move better. Like, for example, Jamie Sherwood actually has experience. Like, that was his role stepping in because Mosley was the middle linebacker, and then Quincy was the strong side linebacker. And then you'd have Sherwood as kind of this, rangy weak side linebacker to run out and cover running backs in the flat or quickly drop back in coverage. But yeah, unfortunately, well, I mean, I guess it just depends on however whatever your preferences are with football, but you do see a lot of 3-by-1, like defenses just are, I don't want to say they're predominant, like their base defense is a nickel defense, but I mean, how often do you just see the slot corner out there or guys lining up in the slot on offense and stuff like that? So yeah, I would probably have to say right now McCray Ball for weak side linebacker.
Be Malachi Moore for all we know.
Yeah.
You never know. So overall, dude, it's we're in training camp. Game tomorrow night on the Hall of Fame game tomorrow on TV. Football is legitimately back. What are you looking forward to over the weekend? You the green and white scrimmage. Like, is there any like storyline that you're in terms of the Jets that you're looking forward to for the next like 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, I want to hear that the safeties are continuing to make plays. Now, I know it comes at the cost of whatever quarterbacks throwing picks and stuff like that, but I don't care, dude. Like Cisco, that was my favorite. So it's funny. Cisco was my favorite free agent signing. Malachi Moore was my favorite draft pick when I just kind of took a look at both. So it's really encouraging to hear that both guys are doing well, but that's got to continue on. It can't just be a storyline in July and then it fizzles out in August. With Cisco, I feel really confident. I think he's actually going to have a great year. barring injury. Malachi Moore still up in the air just because I haven't seen him at the NFL level yet. But from everything we're hearing from reporters and whatnot, it sounds good. But until I actually get the eye test, like I personally see it, still a little unclear. But yeah, for me, Cisco, Malachi Moore, I still want those guys to and also too, man. I don't want to discount this player, but Jarius Monroe, who is an undrafted free agent last year, he's been standing out too, man.
Yes. Excellent. I forgot him. I wrote him down. I forgot to mention him. You're absolutely right. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, but I'm more about interior defensive line. I'm curious to see how these defensive tackles play out. And then it's just wide receivers. Who's going to take the next step here as the competition heats up? Who's gonna rise? Tight ends too, where it's like, all right, is Rucker going to step up? Like, you know me, dude. I'm always worried about pass catchers. I'm worried about like receivers. So like I'm looking at, defensive line, wide receivers, and then obviously you want to see the quarterbacks play well, but you have a sense of confidence with Justin Fields. I tell you what, I get asked this question probably once a day. How is Michael Clemens still on the team? And I'm telling you, the Jets are banking on Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes getting through to him and maybe making him the player that we thought he was going to be. Physical, nasty, tough, well-rounded. I don't think he goes anywhere early on, dude. I think he'll probably get the entire preseason to make his case to make the team. And they may actually need him.
Yeah, I mean, with Jermaine, so Jermaine was cleared, but the Jets are still trying to like take their time with it. They don't want to just say, "Oh, you're good to go. Here's a full load of the starting reps," and just kind of force him out there, which is the smart approach in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I don't like the idea of cutting players before preseason. And I know the NFL has like a new rule. I don't think it's set up to where it's like cut down days throughout the month. I think it's just one big swoop at the end. So yeah, I mean, I would just kind of look at the defensive end room and just lump everyone in one bucket and just say, okay, you know what? Like we are taking everything into consideration. But obviously what's most important is how you guys are performing now with us. How are you picking up our scheme? How do we envision you in our scheme moving forward? So like as opposed to maybe like prior draft position or what you've done before in the past, whether you're an undrafted guy, whether you're a higher, round player, like Clemens, like mid rounder here, everyone, in my opinion, should be judged the same.
I agree.
Because I'm trying to think, I mean, you got like McGregor, you got Watts, obviously Will McDonald in there as well. Yeah, I think Clemens should just, be judged fairly. If he doesn't look good, if they don't feel like he's a part of the team, then I wouldn't be surprised to see him off the team. But if he makes the squad as like the last rotational edge rusher in, I don't think it would be the end of the world.
No, I mean, like we hated his penalties and his approach to the game and his terrible tackling. But if you improve that, he could be a physical force too, where he could be a good run stopper or whatever else. So we'll see. Yeah, this is my sleeper kicker. I'm all about this big kicker, dude. I love it. I think it'd just be because you think of like Sebastian Janikowski, like those big old kickers. So it'd be fun to see him make the team if he could. I think this is Folk's job now, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, Folk is 40. So maybe you can stash him on the practice squad. Stash Mevis on the practice squad. Just in case something happens to Nick Folk and we're not kind of scrambling. But kicker is one of those positions where it feels pretty easy to be able to scoop one up in short notice.
Yeah, you would think so. So we covered a lot, man. So your level of excitement. So are you any more excited than before preseason or before the training camp or not? Like the training camp, you had a little good energy, but now that you see how this team is progressing a little bit, are you a little bit more excited or are you still the same?
Nah, it's always 10 out of 10 for me.
Good answer.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, I was excited about the team last year, but just like deep down, just Rodgers and Hackett and all these just storylines and everything. It was hard to look at and be like, this is a team that's capable of going to Buffalo, going to KC, going to Baltimore, knocking them off in the playoffs. I think it was pretty obvious early on in the season. This seems so much farther behind how they viewed themselves, where it just was off-putting, in my opinion. But this year, we're back to this underdog looking up, trying to punch above our weight mentality, which I personally love. I feel like that kind of is the Jets,
They seem like a very easy team to root for. Like this team is like a easy because like they're all like good guys. They want to work hard, no attitudes, no egos. It's just like, all right, I can embrace this. I can support these guys without worrying about looking foolish on a Sunday. So I guess that's it, dude. We covered a lot here, man, in friggin' hour and 10 minutes somehow.
Yeah, man. Next week should be really, really exciting. Green and white scrimmage, I think, is Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, so that should be a lot of fun. I don't know if they're gonna be streaming it or what. Hopefully they do, but yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
And again, I think next week we'll be back. We always keep saying Tuesday at 7, but we never make Tuesday at 7. So, oh, and by the way, you got shirts too, dude. What's up with these shirts?
Yeah, so I dropped a merch store, which has been just flat out awesome, man. Thank you to everyone that's picked up anything. You know, there's been some really cool orders with some messages, and it means the world. It's totally awesome. And I've spent a lot of time kind of putting together these different designs and building the site to make sure it looks cool, and the shirt quality, everything is, because it took me a long time to kind of make sure I had a merch store in the past, but I didn't like the quality of the shirt. So a couple years ago, I just took the whole thing down. I'm like, I just don't like this, and the shipping takes too long. So I was waiting and kind of searching for like a company to work with where I feel good about like the quality and the shipping times, and people are actually getting their orders in like a reasonable manner. So yeah, finally found that, and yeah, it's been awesome.
Nice.
Hey, dude, bro, don't worry about it, bro. Don't worry about it. Nice
opening on your video. Do you do your own graphics?
I do, yeah. So everything on my channel I do myself. I was outside of the background music. I don't make the background music. That I just go through a website where you can download kind of like background tracks.
Listen, Legends mine, Lauren. We cannot. Legends got. I have my own merch coming out. Legends got his own little T-shirt coming out. So you probably don't know who he is, do you? You know who Legend is?
I don't. Who is he?
He's our gremlin. He's my official mascot. That he's a gremlin with like a mohawk, and he wears sunglasses. That he does our halftime analysis, because when the games are usually terrible, we bring him on.
I think I've seen like a profile picture of that. Is he green?
Yeah, he's green. He's right there.
I have seen him. Is he smiling?
Yes, he's got big teeth.
Okay, I have seen him. Yeah. I have seen him. Yeah.
That's when things go really bad with the Jets. We have nothing else better to do than talk to like a friggin' stuffed animal. We bring Legend on. Yeah, no, this is he's got some issues. He's got to familiarize him with Legend. So, thank you guys for joining us. Next week. We'll be on his channel, 7:00. A lot to talk about. We thank you for all the support, all the listens on our podcast network. We definitely appreciate it. Any last words, my friend?
Just pumped for this weekend, man. Really, really excited for this weekend.
No, I am too. So thank you guys for joining us. We definitely appreciate it on a Wednesday night. We'll talk to you next week.
J-E-T-S-J-J